Copper is used for a lot of things you use every single day, and you probably don't even realize it. It can be in your electronics, your telephone, even your roof. It's also a prime target for thieves. WECT's JC Caldwell spoke with a network provider and learned how it affects us when thieves make off with it.
You drive past them every day, and yet you probably pay no attention to them. Utility poles. But for thieves, it's exactly what they're looking for, because part of the wire hanging in between is copper.
The demand for copper has increased, which has really made a strong case for thieves or would-be thieves to steal it so that they can then in turn sell it.
Trey Rabin is the AT&T North Carolina president. He says AT&T uses copper wire infrastructure along with fiber to offer their services.
This line, this is going to have fiber and copper that are intertwined.
Oftentimes, Rabin says thieves don't know the difference between copper and fiber lines on utility poles, and they'll cut both.
If they cut a copper cable, you may disconnect 100 customers. If they cut a fiber cable, you could disconnect hundreds of customers. You could disconnect a public safety answering point, a main 911 office.
Wilmington police say they've had 8 copper wire related thefts so far this year. The most recent one we've reported in our area was last month in Riegelwood.
Columbus County deputies want your help finding 2 copper thieves.
Rabin says AT&T has seen over 215 incidents this year statewide and says it's a growing problem.
It's a theft of opportunity.
Wilmington police say it's important to have cameras because another thing they see
is commercial AC units like this one being stolen. Not for their intended use, but for the copper inside most of them.
Copper thieves will get thousands of dollars for just a typical strand.
Police say if the property damage from getting the metal, whether from an AC unit, a utility pole, or something else, is more than $1,000 and you're caught, you could face felony charges.
We'll partner with law enforcement and district attorneys to prosecute to the fullest extent we can to try and discourage that type of behavior.
Rabin says he also hopes public awareness will help cut down on these thefts too.
If you see anything suspicious around utility poles or see copper wire theft, you're asked to report it to local law enforcement. Reporting in Wilmington, JC Caldwell, WE.